Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to this hybrid meeting of the Ethics and Standards Committee, which is open to the press and public on request. We welcome the use of the Welsh language at meetings. I've had no requests for people to speak Welsh today, so this meeting will be conducted in English only. Please can members refrain from using the chat function and instead use the raised hand icon to indicate that they want to speak. Please remember to keep your microphone muted when you are not talking. May I remind members that as per statutory guidance made in the Section 4 of the Local Government Wales Measure 2011 and our formally adopted hybrid meeting policy, any member attending a meeting remotely must be seen and heard by the members and officers who are attending the meeting, as well as by members of the public who are viewing the meeting online. Can I therefore please ask that everyone has their cameras on for the duration of the meeting? Please be aware that this meeting is being transcribed. However, this is only for the purposes of producing minutes. The transcript will be deleted once the committee has approved the minutes, and the transcript should not be downloaded by anyone apart from Democratic Services. Before I move on with the agenda, I would just like to welcome our recently appointed new independent member, Lorraine Morgan, to the committee and her first meeting of the Ethics and Standards Committee. Moving on to the agenda. Agenda item 1, welcome and apologies. Dominique, do we have any apologies, please?
Chair, I have apologies from Mr Mark Rees.
Great, thank you. Agenda item 2, quorum. The Monitor Officer, Dalith Harries, could you please confirm if a quorum is present?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I can confirm we are correct.
Brilliant. Agenda item 3, declarations of interests. Members, do you have any interests to declare?
Yes, I've got two on item 9 and item 10.
Okay, great. When we get to those, we'll ask you to leave the room go on.
Just to clarify, they are personal and prejudicial interests, and they Councillor Evans, and that's because you are the Chair of Thornhill Community Centre. So it's in relation to agenda item number 9, and it's in relation to your applications in relation to agenda item number 10. Thank you. Sorry.
No problem. Agenda item 4, the minutes of the Ethics and Standards Committee held on the 9th of October 2025. Members, could you please state whether you have anything to raise in relation to the minutes? If not, I was going to take them as agreed. Perfect. Agenda item 5, update on actions. Members, could you please state whether you have anything to raise in relation to the action sheet? If not, we'll just notice contents. No? On this, the action that's there, on behalf of the committee, I would like to just welcome this this completed action. It's obviously something we've discussed a number of times, and while we don't have a change in the say of the policy, we do have a report every year around members' attendance, and it's really pleasing to see that following our feedback, a motion has been submitted to Council in December, and a revised policy is in the process of being updated. So thanks. Agenda item 6 is the leader's duty to promote good conduct. This is my personal favourite item of the year. Having spoken to chairs of other committees across Wales, I think it has real value, not just to our work as a committee, but actually, hopefully, to the leaders who are in attendance today. Before I invite questions of the political leaders from committee members, could the Monitor Officer, Dalith Harries, please present the report for us?
Thank you, Chair. Yes. You'll be aware that as a result of the Local Government and Elections Wales Act 2021, there is this requirement for leaders of political groups to promote and maintain high standards of conduct by members of the group and to cooperate with the Ethics and Standards Committee in the exercise of the committee's functions. The committee is required to monitor the compliance by leaders of the political groups with those duties. Each of the leaders have completed a form setting out what they have done to comply with that duty, and they've all been invited to the committee today for the committee to consider and comment on the steps that have been taken by the leaders. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dalith. The recommendation for this item is on page 16. Which basically says that we need to consider and comment on the submissions. Could I just check that members agree with this recommendation? take that as a yes. I'm going to open it up in a sec. I just want to say, obviously, public confidence in local democracy doesn't just depend on the decisions we make, but how we make them. And I think respectful debate, integrity, accountability and transparency are not optional in the public sector environment. They're fundamental to what everyone is doing. And as political leaders, I thank you for being here, because you set the tone for behaviour and for standards. Culture is always shaped at the top. This session is not about looking at individual cases. What we want to speak to you about is consistency, leadership, and process, that kind of thing. I want it to be constructive. It needs to be honest but constructive, and it'd be really helpful if there are any gaps that we could identify. Are there any solutions that we as a committee could help with, or recommendations that we can make to other committees? I am going to take the completed promoting compliance with the Code of Conduct templates that you've all submitted as read in terms of today's papers. So I just want to open up to committee members as to whether they have any questions they want to ask of the political leaders.
I would have is, since our last meeting, have you seen any improvements in attendance and conduct of your members?
In terms of answering, I think that is one for everyone. So yeah. So I'll rotate who I asked to speak first. So this one, we'll go Councillor Thomas first, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I think there is a lot more that we can do with regards to the Code of Conduct. Not to try and make it too personal to myself or my members, but it is our party that does get quite a lot of stick online compared to the other parties, and sometimes you can find yourself perhaps getting very frustrated with that and maybe not conducting yourself in a way that you perhaps should. So when one of us perhaps gets into that situation, it's normally me, because I was seen as some sort of figurehead in Wales until our leader was appointed. We do try and look after ourselves with conversations of, should we have said that? Should I have done this? What can we do? Do we need to look at the Code of Conduct on that? We do try and take advice as well from the council on certain things that we may plan to do. And as regards to attendance, as you're probably aware, my attendance has not been the best, but when you are a political leader and also the director of Wales for Reform UK, time can be taken away from you quite swiftly, and you do perhaps miss some meetings, which is not intentional, but again, we do discuss these in our group meetings to try and rectify those problems and sometimes help remind each other of what obligations that we have got. But it is an ongoing process that we're looking at, and we do try and work as a team to encourage each other and look after each other's best interests.
Councillor Hunt.
Yeah, I think to start with, I think it's important to say that I think the council benefits from having a diversity of members. And maybe 30, 40 years ago, it was rare for members to have day jobs, so to speak. Now, that's not rare, and I think that's a good thing. But it does mean I think you have to judge every member on their own merits and not just looking at bare statistics. Someone might only be able to attend a certain number of meetings, but when they do, they really contribute fully to them. So I think it's worth nuance, I think is what I'm trying to say, because as Dave said, someone might have a busy job, but when they can attend, they really add value to the chamber. So I think that's not something necessary that should be just be viewed statistically. In terms of conduct, so yeah, just remember all members are different really, and that brings a value to our organisation. In terms of conduct, I guess as group leaders, we're a bit like goalkeepers in this sense, in that, you know, yourselves and the outside world probably only finds out when it goes wrong, but very often our role is to get, you know, calm things down, and I do think, by and large, we manage that, even if it doesn't always work.
Councillor Haynes.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I sort of agree with Anthony to a degree. I think the focus very much is on quantity of attendance, not the quality of attendance. It's quite easy for lots of people to attend meetings and say nothing, and consistently say nothing, and attending to get your attendance mark and contributing little or nothing isn't really helpful. I would rather see somebody attend 2 out of 4 meetings and be an active participant than attend 4 out of 4 and say nothing and participate in no way. We sort of have to remember that other than cabinet, scrutiny chairs and leaders, all other councillors are deemed backbench and therefore as part-time role. And it's not helpful when it's constantly, you know, the attendance is constantly blasted at members, particularly when it's deemed a part-time role. As I said, 4 out of 5 of our members work full-time, and though, you know, our attendance is okay, we do have discussions and meetings at least once a month, and it is on our agenda quite often, and we all do try our best, but there are times where life and work and other things are conflicted with meetings, and you have to make that choice. So generally I think the independent group's attendance is okay. There is some room for that to be improved, but we are a work in progress.
Thanks for all your contributions. Any other committee members have any questions they want to ask of the leaders? Go on, Greg.
It's only a quickie. I noticed in the reports that you all mentioned about everyone's willing, all group leaders are willing to meet up with each other. Is that actually happening?
Informally, we talk. Yeah, I mean, and you know, I think we're all available if any of us want to talk to each other. Would we want to make that more formal? I don't know.
Sorry, that was the point I was getting at, is whether there was any formal.
Cheers, Roger. Thank you. Yeah, like Anthony said, we don't meet formally. Would I like us to do that? Yes, probably. I think that would be a good idea. I think that would probably iron out a few silly things that sometimes is done. But yeah, like Anthony said, we can call each other. I mean, I've called Anthony a few times on issues. He's called me, same as Liz. So you know, I mean, we do get on. We have a little mess about now and then, don't we? But apart from that, it's fairly decent, I would say.
Anything to add there, Councillor Haynes?
Yeah, pretty much. I'd agree with Dave on that. It would be much more helpful if they were formalised, because I'm very aware that several years ago there used to be leader meetings, but I don't know why that's sort of dropped off the radar. But I do think that they would be helpful, and it would help with us all working together, because ultimately, even though we are in political groups or parties, we should be representing the people that voted us to do so. And I think that it would help if the meetings were more formal or formalised.
Okay, I think that's really helpful for you guys, hopefully, just for you to consider as leaders. Obviously, you know, that's very much within your remit. Any other committee members got any additional questions? Lorraine, anything? No? I've got a couple, if not.
Thank you. Just to comment that I'm very surprised that there isn't a formal meeting of group leaders. Really surprised at that, in view of all the responsibilities. And it allows people to be honest and reflective. And I think reflection and learning is a really important attribute to any type of meeting. So yes, I would heartily consider and support that it should be formal.
Great. I've got a question for all three of the leaders who are in attendance. I was wondering how effective you think the Council's Code of Conduct is in practice. As a recommendation from this committee a year or two ago, it was introduced that there would be refresher sessions halfway through the term. But I was just wondering if there was anything you felt that could be beneficial in addition to that, or is there a right balance already there as far as you're concerned?
Chair, I think, if I'm honest, I think the council should do more with the code of conduct. I do think that lots of councillors don't know it as well as perhaps Councillor Haynes. She's very acute with that. And if I need some advice on that, I have gone to Councillor Haynes on it. But I think we should have more sessions on that, because I think if you were to grab a few councillors and ask them if they knew the code of conduct well, they would probably tell you no. I certainly don't know it as best as I should, but you know, I am looking into it more, especially now I got myself into a few scrapes. So yeah, I think we should do more with that.
Any other comments on there? In which case, Dallas, is the Code of Conduct training mandatory here?
Thank you, Chair. It's not mandatory in the sense that councillors aren't breaching the code if they do not attend. Having said that, though, it is strongly recommended that the councillors attend training because of the importance of it, and obviously the consequences of not complying with the code could, you know, in a worst-case scenario, could lead to a sanction by the Ethics and Standards Committee. I know that it was looked at, it was considered in the, by, I can't remember the actual organisation who were looking into it to see whether it was going to be a recommendation that it would be inserted in the code to be made mandatory. I don't know how far that's got really, but it is important. Also, the fact that if there are complaints to the Ombudsman, one of the questions that the Ombudsman always asks is, has the councillor attended code of conduct training? Thank you.
Yeah, so no, but then the leaders do have a role in which they could actively encourage attendance at future sessions. Okay, I think that's helpful. We previously discussed in this when we've had the leaders in around. You know, I don't think we're here to support as well as to question. And the issue of social media has been discussed before, and if I'm honest, it went a different way than I thought it was going to go. I thought the conversation was going to be very much around how councillors use social media, but actually an awful lot of the conversations in some of our previous sessions with leaders is about support for councillors receiving how do you say, problematic content via social media. And we've previously, well, Dallas previously shared WLGA guidance around how to deal with advice on how to deal with trolling and things like that. I was just wondering, is there anything else that the leaders feel that we as a committee could support with, whether that's in a formal or informal way? And it might be, the answer might be no.
personally, I don't know what the ethics and standards could do more to support that. I think it's a learning curve that every councillor has to go through. We all experience it. We all have to deal with it. It sort of is pretty much part of the job, and very much we have to learn to take it on the chin. It's how you handle that is the important bit, and I think that sort of guidance is important. And I do think that some political parties do get targeted more than the independent group, because we're not a formal party. We therefore are not treated like a formal party. Ours is much more on a personal basis for us, because it's sort of independent. It's a personal issue that they have, or a personal attack, as opposed to a party attack. So there are different things that happen for different councillors and groups.
You know, it's not a question that the Ethics and Standards Committee can solve in itself, but it is that support for councillors about where the line lies between legitimate criticism, which we all, have to expect in our jobs, and, the elements of social media that go well beyond that. That support and pastoral role, I think, is on us as leaders as much as anyone. I do worry sometimes with hybrid meetings. That's when I check on people. You can only check on someone's well-being, in my view, by being in the same room as them, looking them in the eye, looking at their body language, asking them how they are around the fringes of a meeting, having a chat with them about things they might be going through at home that might be affecting things. And I do worry when councillors are using hybrid meetings that I don't get that chance to exercise that pastoral function as a leader. And I recognise that sometimes for very good reasons, if people are away or they've got other business that means they can dial into meetings they won't be able to make. But that's something I try and keep an eye on as a leader. How do I exercise that pastoral role when I don't necessarily meet up face to face with people as much as usual? Although that has improved year on year, I think, since hybrid working came in, there's more people back now for meetings, but that does give me some worry still.
Social media. This is my realm, I think. Nobody gets abused or has their character assassinated as much as me on social media. Is it something that you guys can do to help? No. I think it is something that we have to do as leaders. I often watch other councillors from other parties making quite vulgar comments, and previous councillors, about myself mostly, and some of our other councillors. And it is, for me, I'm quite used to it now, and you develop a very, very, very thick skin. I really don't care anymore. I'm so used to it. Would some of my colleagues be able to put up with the same amount of character assassinations that go on social media? Probably not. So, but because I am well versed in it, I think I would know how to look after them in that way. I think the point I'm trying to make is, as leaders, I think we need to be watching our colleagues and what they say, and maybe address with them, like, not to be so vulgar and childish on social media, because it's not so much the councillors that are facing it, it's the family members. Like, my son is 16, he reads the comments that these other councillors make, and these hidden fake profiles make. I think is something that the leaders really do need to address with their colleagues.
I think part of the whole code of conduct, the template, is about ensuring that as leaders those messages are filtered down to colleagues to ensure that that doesn't happen. I know a number of local authorities ethics and standards committees have informal conversations with leaders. I'm not suggesting we debate that now, but it is something that the offer, I think, would be there, provided there was no issues around that. I know a number of them do it, where we could, you know, given the fact that as a committee we only meet twice a year, I think there would definitely be a willingness from committee members to do that. If there aren't any other questions, I was just going to take the opportunity just to welcome your inputs and your commitment to ensuring high standards of behaviour. You know, the request remains, and we are a bit like a stuck record, and I do appreciate that, around, you know, can you consistently throughout the year, it shouldn't just be, you know, we get to January, February time and we've got to do a submission. It needs to be, you know, 365 days of the year kind of attitude towards these things. So just that ongoing request that, you know, you carry on doing a positive job in terms of setting those standards. Are there any other questions from committee members? If not, I'd like to say thank you for your time, thank you for your submissions. I appreciate you're all very busy people. You are more than welcome to stay if you would like to stay for the rest of the Ethics and Standards Committee meeting, or you're more than welcome to leave. Thank you. Cool. Thanks. Just to confirm now, then, obviously we've had three of the political leaders in, and just confirm that we are all happy with that recommendation on page 16, which was to consider their views. I'm going to take that as agreement. Brilliant. Next agenda item then, agenda item 7, which is the annual report of this committee. Delith Harries, Monitoring Officer and Assistant Chief Legal Officer, could you present the report to us, please?
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is for the committee to note and comment on the draft annual report of the committee, which will be presented to Council in the summer. As the committee has now become aware, every year Council receives a report from the Chair of the Ethics and Standards Committee, and this has become an established practice of reporting annually to councillors to ensure that its role is well known both to members of the council and to the public. And the report sets out the work that the committee has carried out in the last year and offers an opportunity to feedback. So, following the introduction of the Local Government and Wales Elections Act in 2021, it became a legal requirement to produce this report. And that's something that's always been an established practice in any event. So what is before you, in consultation with the Chair and comments from the Chair, you have before you the draft annual report, which will be presented to Council in the summer. So this is an opportunity for you to consider the report, comment on it and make any further changes as required. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Delith. The recommendation for this is on page 27. Obviously, because of the timescales, there are bits that need to be added afterwards. So the recommendation is to consider and comment on the draft and agree that any changes after this meeting can be delegated to me as Chair, because obviously I will need to add in details of today's meeting. Can I ask, do we agree that recommendation? Yeah, agree. Yep. Brilliant. Agenda item 8 is the programme of work. Delith, could you present the report to us, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, as again, at each committee meeting, you have before you the draft work programme for the committee for the year 2025-2026. So really that's set out in the appendix. If I just highlight some of the issues, I know the whistleblowing policy and unacceptable actions policies on the list, and that's been, the last time that was considered was 2023. Members have received training on the refresher training on the Code of Conduct at the end of 2024 and training on the Constitution in 2025. The local resolution protocol has been was updated quite recently as well, and that was on 28th of October last year. My understanding in terms of the standards conference and meetings, the last one was held remotely in 2022. And my understanding is that there isn't any intention to have any another conference anyway in the near future. Again, dispensations, well, as you'll be aware, those are considered annually. You've also considered the annual report today. And I think that's so, and it's up to the committee then to consider this work programme and whether it wishes to bring forward any other items on the programme for consideration at the next committee meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Dalith. Has anyone got any questions before we get to the recommendation? No. I have one quick one, Dalith. In terms of the whistleblowing policy... Oh. Sorry, I'll bring Lorraine in first. Lorraine?
Okay, thank you. It was a question about the item to promote high standards. Only to ask if it's possible to have a list of the council committees and forums, and then I can consider which ones I might be interested, if it's possible, to attend and observe.
Yeah, that's fine. There'll be an action taken to share that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No, I do have one for you, Dalith. And it's a question around the whistleblowing policy and unacceptable actions of service users. It says that it was revised in September 2023. I was wondering if there's a timescale set out for when. I'm presuming that these things get reviewed on a like a 3-year or 5-year basis or something like that. I just wanted to check: is there a timescale for that? And if so, and there are changes, will the committee be involved?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this policy is a policy that belongs to HR, so they have the responsibility for updating it and reviewing it. So what I'll do is I'll go back to them and to check whether it's due for consideration, and if so, then I can bring it back with your approval, Chair, to a future committee.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. The recommendation is on page 33. Can I just have members confirm that they agree with the recommendation? Yep, that is confirmed. We'll move on to agenda item 9, applications for dispensation, members' strategic community grant award. Councillor Evans has an interest in this, so I'm going to ask you to leave now, Councillor Evans. And we'll call you back once this item's finished. Thank you. Can I now ask Beth McPherson, the Head of Community Wellbeing, to please present the report to us? Thank you.
Good morning, members. Yeah, can you hear me okay? Just checking my internet is okay. Yeah, all good. Yeah, so essentially a quick report is with respect to the Member Strategic Community Grant Award. So the main report toward those grants is being dealt with through a Cat A to the leader, but this is specific to a dispensation in regards to Councillor Evans. So essentially the grant programme is designed to be a members-led grant programme. It's a 100k allocation that was made available to support local community groups that demonstrated a shared vision around that community wellbeing approach, sort of establishing resilience within local communities, etc. Applications were encouraged through local members, with very much a member-led approach to the grant scheme. And essentially, in terms of the assessment, we received 12 applications, which have been assessed by officers. 9 of those applications we're looking to take forward with a grant award, which includes one to Thornhill for You 2. Councillor Steve Evans is the chairperson of that community organisation, and on that basis had completed a conflict of interest outlining his prejudicial interest, and therefore we're seeking dispensation on that basis. The grant award is for just over 12,000, so 12,120, to support community activity within that organisation. That is essentially the report. I'm not sure if you've got any questions or any additional information you require. Thanks.
Do we have any questions? If not, we'll move to the recommendation. In which case, the recommendation is on page 38. Can members confirm that they agree to the recommendation? Yep. That's agreed then. Thanks for that presentation, Bethan. The next item, agenda item 10, is dispensation in respect of members' small schemes. Each elected member of the County Council has £1,500 per year to allocate as he or she feels fit, in accordance with the member's small scheme arrangement. We're going to run through Appendix 1, which lists all the dispensations for us to consider. I'm going to slightly change it around because these items 4 and 5 on there are for the Thornhill Community Centre / Thornhill 4U2. So obviously Councillor Evans has a declaration of interest on that. So I'll do those two first, and then we'll bring welcome Councillor Evans back to the room. So Stephen Evans, Thornhill Community Centre / Thornhill 4U2, £968. The councillor is chair of the community centre. Any objections? Approved. Lucy Williams, Thornhill Community Centre / Thornhill 4U2, £625. The councillor is a volunteer at the centre. Approved. Great. I'll just pause there as we go invite Councillor Evans back. Right, jumping back in the agenda now. Councillor Janet Jones, Blenavon Horticultural Society, £50, Secretary of the Society. Approved? Yep. Janet Jones, Tuesday Club, £50. She's a member of the club. Approved? Yep. Rose Seaborn, Co-Star Partnership, £250, Trustee of the organisation. Approved? Yep. Linda Clarkson, Bryn Onnon PTA, £700, Governor of School. Approved? Yep. Linda Clarkson, Friends of Garnteg, £700, Governor at School. Approved? Yep. Anthony Hunt, Griffithstown Junior AFC, £50, volunteer coach for the club. The money goes to a central account, not to his specific age group. Approved. Anthony Hunt, Golly's Playgroup, £100, Trustee of the hall where the playgroup meets. Approved. Councillor Hunt, Panteg Community Food Share, £50. Councillor sometimes volunteers at the food share and helps raise funds for them. Approved. Nathan Yowell, Panteg Community Food Share, £50. Councillor sometimes volunteers at the food share and helps raise funds for them. Approved. Norma Parish, Panteg Community Food Share, £50. Councillor sometimes volunteers at the food share and helps raise funds for them. Approved. Anthony Hunt, Panteg House, £100. Councillor sometimes attends the venue and helps out with events and groups there. Approved. Nathan Yowell, Panteg House, £100. Councillor sometimes attends the venue and helps out with events and groups. Approved. Norma Parish, Panteg House, £100. Councillor sometimes attends the venue and helps out with events and groups there. Approved. Councillor Anthony Hunt, Friends of Fish Pond Park, £100. Councillor has volunteered with the group. Approved. Nathan Yowell, Friends of Fish Pond Park, £100. Volunteer is, Councillor has volunteered with the group. Approved. Norma Parish, Friends of Fish Pond Park, £100. Councillor has volunteered with the group. Approved as well. Okay. Anthony Hunt, Bridge 46 to 5 Locks Canal Group, £50. Councillor has volunteered with the group. Approved. Nathan Yowell, Bridge 46 to 5 Locks Canal Group, £50. Councillor has volunteered with the group. Yes, approved. Norma Parish, Bridge 46 to 5 Locks Canal Group, £100. Councillor has volunteered with the group. Approved. Norma Parish, Griffithstown Allotments Association, £50. Councillor has been a Torvine County Borough Council representative on the Allotments Committee. That's approved. Sue Morgan, Friends of Pontnewydd Park, £200. Councillor is a committee chair and wife of the chair. Approved. David Daniels, Friends of Pontnewydd Park, £200. Councillor is a committee member and signatory for the bank account. Approved. Janet Jones, Blaenavon Workman's Hall, £100 on outside body. Approved. Nick Haller, Blaenavon Workman's Club, Workman's Hall, £100 on outside body. Approved. Mark Jones, Pontypool United RFC, £300 committee member. Would I have an interest in that? My son plays for the junior team, not the... I misread that originally. So if I declare that now, so I have to leave for that one. Tell you what, we'll do the last one, and then if I pass over and someone else could do that one just in case. Actually, very safe and sorry on that. So we'll jump to the last one. Liam Cowles, Blaenavon and District Men's Darts League, £150. Registered player in the league and chairman is a close personal friend. Approved. If I step out then for number 27, because my son technically plays for the minis, but not for the juniors, not United. But if I pass on to Gregor, can you do that one?
Yeah, item 27, Mark Jones, Pontypool United RFC, £300. He is a committee member. Approved? Yep. Yep. Okay, thank you. Yep.
No, I counted to 20 because I had to read enough of them to know. So that's all the dispensations dealt with. Agenda item 11 would be exclusion of the press and public. Members of the press and public are excluded in accordance with paragraph 16 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, as amended, as the report contains information in respect of which a claim to legal professional privilege could be.